How is everybody doing, and welcome back. And if you're just stopping in and new, why don't you hit that subscribe button and become part of the family. Today I'm waiting on my parts to come in for my mower. I don't know what time his UPS runs as far as getting my parts and stuff in for that pump, so I thought I would turn my attention to something I've been, I guess, neglecting, but not really neglecting. It's really not time yet, but I was under the truck doing some visual inspection yesterday after I got home from the trip and noticed that there was some uneven wear on the backside of my rotor, so I thought I would take advantage of today. I am off today also, and today is my last day of work, so I guess I took the whole week off because of my calf. So I'm gonna go ahead and take advantage of today and do my rear brakes. I'm starting off early this morning. It's right around 9 o'clock. They opened up just a little bit ago, but I want to go ahead and get everything tore apart, take my rotors in and get those turned. I don't feel that I'm within minimum spec yet as far as my rotors, so I should be able to just have them turned. And while I have them off, I'm also going to be addressing my emergency brake and possibly taking care of those shoes also. There's shoes on the emergency brake. Mine are built into the rotor. There's a drum here for the rear emergency brake. So I need to inspect those and possibly get those replaced too when I go to, like in the winter time when I leave my truck run. If I run into my local gas station or something like that to grab a cup of coffee, I have to shut it off, or I can't park on an incline or anything like that because it doesn't hold my truck very well. Now granted, my truck is heavy and I do have aftermarket tires. I'm running a, like I've said before, I'm running a 35 1250, so that is a heavier tire, but it should still hold it on a minimal incline. So while I have that stuff apart, I'm going to address that issue also. If there's enough pad left on there, I'll just adjust them out a little bit, so that's taken care of, and I don't have to, hopefully I don't have to change the pads because that'd just be another expense. But if I do, then I guess so be it. The reason I do set my emergency brake, if you're just stopping in, is my truck is a 6-speed, so right now what do you need to get your brakes apart is a 1/2 inch for your calipers and a 13/16 for your caliper bracket. So the reason you got to take both of those off is you got to have your caliper bracket off to get your rotor off. So right now I forgot to grab my ratchet, so I'll go grab that, get the calipers pulled off, and then also get the caliper bracket pulled off so I can take the rotor off. And like I said before, the first thing you need to do is pull your caliper off, and these are a 1/2 inch. And sometimes, well, most time it is necessary. There is some alignment pins on the back of a lot of these pads. So what I do is I just grab a drift pin and I just pry in on each of those pistons just a little bit to give you clearance to be able to. And these calipers pivot up from the bottom and come off that way. And then it's a good idea to set this someplace where it's not going to fall off. I usually just take and set mine right up here on the leaf spring. You may want to grab like a tarp strap or some mechanics wire or something like that and wire these up there, because if you fall off and it stretches, or it could possibly break this line right here. So the rear brake pads are pretty much gone and shot, so today's a good day to get this taken care of. And then get your caliper brackets off. It is a 13/16, and you just take these two bolts out right here. Last time I did my tire rotation, I did take some penetrant and spray around this edge here on the hub and the caliper. And the rotor. I don't know if it helped or not, because those are still pretty tight. I'm gonna have to go up inside the truck, put it in neutral probably, and then alright, there's one side taken apart. Primarily what I do, because these can be pretty stubborn to get off, is right here in between where your brake caliper bracket goes. You can slide that in there, use a hammer just like that, and that'll hold it in place. And then I take either a 2-pound, or this time I'm using an 8-pound sledgehammer, and I smack the hammer instead of beating back of your rotor. That way that surface stays good and clean. I know they have to surface that or turn this, but if you put a bunch of dings and dents and stuff like that in it, they won't be able to turn it out, and then you'll have to buy new rotors and they'll be junk. So the emergency brake pads don't look all that bad on this side. So what I think I'm gonna do is go down here to the adjuster on the bottom and turn, there's a like a little star bolt or something like that. I don't really know the correct terminology, but this spring catches on these little cogs, and then that keeps it from turning back in. So basically I'm just going to take and put a couple turns on that and bring these brake shoes out just a little bit. That way there's when I push on the emergency brake, there's less distance to travel to be able to push on the inside of the drum. So while I have it apart, I'll get those adjusted. So right now I just got to turn my attention to the other side and get that light out of the back of my head and get it tore apart so we can take these and get these turned and still get them back today, and grab my shoes, or not my shoes, I don't need emergency brake shoes. Well, we're gonna see what the other side looks like first. Grab my pads, and then I'm gonna go run and return that grinder that I purchased. They have no idea at Lowe's when that is going to come in, so I just went ahead this morning and ordered it from Amazon, and it should be here Saturday. I have no idea why it's gonna take so long for it to come into Lowe's, but I got tired of waiting. It's been over a week now. So I just went ahead and ordered it from Amazon, and I'm gonna go return the one to Lowe's and get that $120 back. So right now, let's get the other side tore apart and take this stuff to O'Reilly. Is about the only place that I know in town here that still turns brake drums, or or rotors, sorry. Well, with both the rotors off, this side is in pretty good shape too, so I'm not too worried about having to replace the emergency brake pad or shoes. So I'm just going to, like I said before, I'm just going to take on this side, on the driver's side, it's on the top, so you get a better view there. I'm just going to take and turn this out just a little bit, and like I said, close the gap in between here and the drum itself, so that way when you depress the pedal, that's less weight, less distance it has to travel before it comes in contact with the drum. So I'm gonna put those in my wife's car and take those to O'Reilly and start getting those turned, and then also run to Lowe's and get a little bit in your face close there and return that grinder. And other than that, I'll be back in just a little bit with my parts hopefully and get this job completed and finished up. By the time they were done with my rotors, it was time to get ready and go to my son's football game, so I wasn't able to get my truck finished up and put it back together. But in the meantime, my parts did come in from my mower, so I was able to get that pump rebuilt and put back on the mower, as you saw from yesterday's video, which was kind of backwards and forwards and everywhere in between. But anyway, as I was editing this video, the first part of it last night, I do apologize for the beginning, the glare of the sun on taking the passenger side apart. I should have started with the driver's side just because of the angle of the sun. But anyway, I do apologize. It was pretty bright, you know, in your guys' eyes and stuff like that. So anyway, I wanted to catch you up where I'm at. They did get my rotors turned, but this will be the last time. You can see there's just a little mark right there. If they went any further, it would be out of spec, and there is a groove on
the very top edge or outside edge there too, and they couldn't get their lathe set up to be able to do the emergency brake portion of the emergency brake drum on that. So where I'm at this morning, kind of just going basically putting everything back together in the reverse fashion that I took it apart. I'm going to adjust these shoes out just a little bit, just so I can barely slide this on. That way when I do apply my emergency brake, these will go out and make contact instead of just barely holding the truck in place. The way you adjust that is just take this little star nut that's on this adjuster and turn it one way or another so this threaded shaft goes out. There is a spring on here and it catches on these little cogs on this star nut to keep it in place. And these do adjust from the backside also, just like regular old drum brakes. All you do is pull this little rubber plug out of there, and then you're able to stick one of your spoons in there and adjust those to get proper adjustment. I have it apart right now so I can do it. I did take a wire wheel and take that lip off this edge and then just clean this surface up just a little bit, so they do have a good contact surface to contact with, I guess. Another thing that you're going to want to do is clean your bolts that hold your caliper on, and then also clean these slides off. It's important that these slides move free and they are clean, because that's how your rotor adjusts and you get proper wear on both sets of, or on both pads, front and rear. I use a brake lubricant on that, and I use it on everything, even on the threads of the caliper bracket and the threads of the caliper bolts, just to help the next time I need to take things apart. If I ever take things apart again, this may last, you know, the length that I have the truck. I don't have any plans on selling it in the future, but you know, everything's for sale for the right price. So like I said before, basically to adjust this, you just stick your screwdriver in there and turn this just a little bit, a couple of times, and then just take your rotor and slide it on there, just so it has, I think I'm gonna go just a little bit tighter, maybe not. That's not too bad right there. I can hear that dragging just a little bit on there, so that should be pretty good. We'll leave this side alone, and then if I do want to make them tighter, like I said, there is that plug that's on the back side that I'll be able to pull out and take and stick a spoon in there and tighten it up just a little bit if I wanted to. So now, since I've had my dirty gloves on this, I want to take some brake clean and clean these surfaces off before I put my new pads on there. One other thing that I like to do is, like I said, is I like to take these slides out and just make sure everything's good and clean. Put new lube on there so everything moves good and free. The last thing you need to do before you start reassembling everything is push your pistons back inside your caliper. Now you do want to make sure that you take the cap off of your master cylinder reservoir up underneath your hood, just so it doesn't build pressure. You can do a C-clamp on, you can use a C-clamp on this. They make a tool that you can buy for this, which I don't own, but what I do have is this right here. I don't remember what this is for. It was something to do with woodworking, and I thought I could use it for a caliper press on the older vehicles that doesn't twist in, and it actually works pretty good. Now on these dual piston calipers, I do have to push in both cylinders because one, it doesn't go in the center to push them both in at the same time, and it does take just a little bit of adjustment, so I got to keep going back and forth pushing them cylinders in. So I'll push that one in just a little bit, and then I'll move it over. All right, with the rotor clean and the pistons pushed back into place in the caliper, we can start the reassembly process. So you slide your rotor back on, you put your caliper bracket in place. I want to put some grease on these bolts. Then after that, you take your new brake kit. Now my kit did come with the hardware, so I'll put my new hardware on. And there is a top and bottom on the hardware. You can see how these are different. All you need to do is look. I always leave my hardware on just so I know where to put this one on at. So I know that this short side on this truck goes on the top. And then the long tab goes on the bottom. Now the passenger side will be the opposite. And then after you're done with that, you can take just a little bit of lube, brake lube, and put right there on them slides, just on the edges. Do not get any on your rotors. And you can slide your pads in. Your squealer goes on the back side. Make sure and untwist your brake line, and then this goes in like so. And then I'll squirt just a little bit of lube inside these sliders for these bolts going in, and then just tighten them up. That's all there is to it. I notice here that I don't know who put this line on here, but it's braided line, and if you look right there, that's got a pretty good kink in it. So I'm probably going to try and find a different brake line. It would be better if this just had a 90 in it. It would give it more slack, or if I could get a 90 for this fitting here to give it more slack, because that is bent over there pretty good. Or if I can take and move this out just a little bit. I don't know. I didn't notice that when I took it apart on how bad that's bent over. With both sides back together, it is like that on the passenger side also, as far as the brake line. I think what I'm going to do is, the reason I didn't notice it when I tore it apart is because as this, you use your pad and this caliper adjusts back and forth, your pistons come out this way, so it pushes this caliper back this way. And you know, that would take them pistons, you got to push back in there probably about a good 1.5 to 2 inches. So that would also move this way 1.5 to 2 inches, therefore taking, you know, slack off of this line, or allowing it to be just a little bit looser. So I'm pretty sure that's why I didn't notice it when I tore it apart, because it is that way on both sides. I did try and just turn it a little bit to see if I could get some more slack in it, but it's just the way that it is. So the only thing I need to do is put my tires back on. I'm gonna just take the passenger side and put on the driver's side, and the driver's side put on the passenger side. And put it back together, get my hitch put in, and get my trailer hooked up, and go get some lawns mowed. So I guess for today, that's pretty much all I have. If you don't mind, hit that like button, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not already done so, and we will talk to you guys later on. Bye-bye.